Welcome everyone to week number 6 in Science 200. This is a big week for us. We're headed toward the end of the term and you have a really big assignment due this week. So let's see what we've got going on. Last week we learned all about biases in scientific research and how scientists try to take out bias. Well, what is the bias caused by? Ideas that the researcher brings in to the study themselves. So we have certain expectations as scientists about what results we should get. We have biases that are caused by our patients or our study subjects because they know that you expect a certain result. We have biases caused by just confirmation bias. We look at the results as scientists and think a certain way, and so we describe things in that way. There is funding bias. So whoever is paying you to do this work will expect a certain result. And so will that color your results? Absolutely, it sure will. So we try to take out bias whenever we can. I talked about double-blind studies last week that are so important in scientific research, if at all possible. You learned about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill and how important it was for the federal scientists and ecological scientists around the world to get involved in the Deepwater Horizon oil spill because the BP scientists were not making accurate measurements about how much oil was flowing out. It was only about 1/10 of the amount that actually was. And so the other scientists had to get involved, and those scientists had no bias. But the BP scientists did because BP wanted to minimize the impact of this oil spill. So that was a good study on biases in science. This week is all about ecological damage caused by the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And you know, there were lots of pictures that came out in 2010. Dead dolphins on the shore, dead seabirds, so many pelicans, so many shorebirds, sharks, fish, manatees. There were a lot of different animals that you could actually see that had died because of this oil spill. But in the work this week, we're talking about the microscopic life that's in the ocean, that's at the very bottom of every food web in marine life in the ocean, and how they were affected. These are called forams, but there are lots of different types of microscopic life in the ocean. This is just one group, and it discusses how badly they were affected by this oil spill. And of course, that then affects all the rest of the food webs in the ocean. This week, you're working on your planning document. So what is that? That is the final version of your research paper. You are turning that in this week. If you made a 50 out of 50 points in week 5 for that document, turn in exactly the same document for week 6, and you'll make a perfect score. In week 5, it counts for 50 points. In week 6, it counts for 168 points. This is a very big assignment. Now, if you didn't make a perfect score in week 5, make sure you read through my feedback, fix anything that you need to fix, and then turn that in for your week 6 assignment. Week 6 is exactly the same as week 5, but with the improvements and using my feedback to make corrections. Okay, so make sure you get that turned in. Well, that being said, this is only week 6 that we're coming up on. So what about weeks 7 and 8? Week 7 and 8 will be spent making a presentation that you would present to your audience that you have already chosen. This is different from your research paper. Your research paper helped you gather information that you would present. But now you're going to have to make a presentation. In week 8, you're putting together a slide presentation, 5 to 7 slides about your topic with lots of graphics and photos and, pow to your presentation to help you get your point across to your audience. In week 7, you're going to put together a set of speaker's notes. So speaker's notes are what you would actually say to your audience about each of the slides as you're making your presentation. If it were me, when I got finished with my week 6 assignment, I would map out the slides that I'm going to make in week 8, even if it's just an outline. And then in week 7, I know what I'm going to talk about on each slide. That's the way that I would approach it. So that's what you got coming up. Also this week, you have discussion board postings. Now, in the directions, the first sentence talks about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. That is not what your discussion board postings are about. Keep reading. The question that you're answering is, what was the most interesting thing that you came across in your research about your topic? Okay? Everybody should have found something interesting and unexpected while you were doing your research. Why is this interesting? How does this relate to you personally? That's what you'll be discussing. Remember, this is not one sentence. You're writing a paragraph, and a paragraph is at least 3 sentences. So remember that. If I see one sentence, that is not enough of a discussion about what is interesting about your research. Your response post. What interests you about your person's topic and what they learned about their research? And do you have further questions about their topic? A lot of you chose GMOs as your topic. Check out your classmates' studies on GMOs and see if they found something different from what you did, or maybe the same, and so that was interesting to you. So make some really good response posts. Also, these are paragraphs, so minimum 3 sentences for a response post. So remember, your initial post is due by Thursday night. The 2 response posts are due by Sunday night. And then tip of the week, especially for this paper in week 6 that counts for so many points, 168 out of your total of 1,000 points this term. Proofread your work. Now, it is hard to proofread your own work. I do understand that, because I know it's hard for me too. But here's a trick. Read it out loud to yourself. Sit there and read it out loud. Okay, go in the bathroom or something so nobody hears you. Read it out loud to yourself and see if it makes sense. It reads well, the grammar's good. You can even find spelling mistakes when you do something like this. Or if you have somebody who's close to you, friend, a spouse, anybody who is really good at proofreading, let them read it and see if it makes sense to them. Pay attention to the grammar and spelling errors that are popping up. If you use Word, all that stuff is underlined in red, so pay attention to that and fix your errors that you see that are coming up. All right, those are my tips for the week. Remember that you can ask me for help, that you can ask me anything that you want. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm glad to help you. So please ask if you have any questions. With that being said, I hope that you have a wonderful week number 6.